Okay, so let's now do an example of solving for angle theta, where we need to do a little bit of simplification to get our angle alone on one side of this equation. So we can treat this like any other algebraic equation where we want to get this variable alone on the left and everything else moved to the other side. So we'll just move our negative 1 to the right, changing it to a positive, and then divide both sides by negative 2 to get that cosine of theta is equal to a negative 1/2. All right, now the next step is to ask yourself, in what quadrant is this angle theta in? Or when is cosine a negative number? So we want to use our cast rule as a reminder of when our ratios are positive. So if cosine is negative, we know that it's not in quadrant 1 or 4. So our angle theta must be either this one or we're down here in quadrant 3. So it'll be this larger angle here. Okay, now how do we find those angles? Well, we know that for each quadrant there is a little reminder of how to find a reference angle for an angle in that quadrant. So for quadrant 2, we know it's 180 degrees minus an angle theta, will give us our reference angle. So if we rearrange this equation, we can say that an angle would be equal to 180 degrees minus the reference angle. We also know that for quadrant 3, a reference angle in this quadrant would be equal to an angle theta minus 180 degrees. Or, again, if we just rearrange this for an angle, any angle theta, we get that for this quadrant we would have our reference angle plus 180 degrees. So we need a reference angle. Well, cosine theta of negative equals a negative 1/2. We can say, let's drop that negative sign, change that to our reference angle, and assume that cosine of the reference angle is a 1/2. So that's one of our special ratios. Whether you've memorized the triangles or all of these angles in the table, or you just plug into your calculator the inverse cosine of a 1/2, whichever way you do, you'll get that our reference angle is 60 degrees. So now we go back over here to these equations to solve for the angle in this problem. So in quadrant 2, theta is equal to 180 degrees minus the reference angle, which is 120 degrees. And in quadrant 3, theta is equal to 180, or our reference angle rather, plus 180 degrees, which is 60 plus 180 is 240, giving us a final answer of theta is equal to either 120 degrees or 240 degrees.